Mia had always believed she was ordinary, too quiet, too soft, too unsure of herself. Growing up, she watched others shine while she stayed in the background, a silent observer, convinced she didn't have the courage for anything greater. She was the girl who never raised her hand in class, the one who avoided eye contact in the crowded hallways, the one who dreamt of adventures but never dared to take the first step. Her world was small, comfortable, and safe, built on the belief that she was destined to live a life unseen. She admired the bold and the brave from a distance, feeling a strange mix of envy and acceptance. That's just how she was, she told herself. Not everyone is meant to be a hero. But everything changed on a crisp autumn afternoon, the kind where the world should feel full of promise. That was the day her mother, her anchor and her staunchest supporter, fell severely ill. The diagnosis came like a thunderclap, shattering the quiet peace of their lives. The doctors, with their kind but somber faces, explained that the treatment would be long, difficult, and staggeringly expensive. As the words hung in the sterile air of the hospital room, Mia felt her world collapse. The floor beneath her seemed to give way, plunging her into a free fall of fear and helplessness. She was only 6. What could someone like her, someone so ordinary, possibly do against such a monumental challenge? The weight of it all was suffocating. For days, a heavy fog of despair settled over her. She would sit by her mother's bedside, holding a hand that felt increasingly frail, her own heart a hollow ache in her chest. The vibrant, laughing woman she knew was fading, replaced by a pale, quiet figure, lost in a sea of tubes and monitors. The hospital bills started to arrive, each envelope a fresh wave of panic. Her father, already working 2 jobs, grew more and more withdrawn. The lines of worry etched deeper into his face. Mia felt like a ghost in her own life, watching her family crumble, powerless to stop it. The girl who always stayed in the background was now thrust into a spotlight she never wanted, and the glare was blinding. She felt utterly, completely lost. One evening, after a particularly grim update from the doctors, Mia fled the hospital. She stood outside under the cold, indifferent glow of a streetlight, the city's noise, a distant hum. Her whole body trembled, not just from the chill in the air, but from the storm raging inside her. Tears she didn't know she had left streamed down her face. This was it. This was the moment she would break. This was the moment she would give up, just like she always did. But then, something shifted. It was a tiny flicker, deep within the darkness. A spark. For the first time in her life, Mia felt a fire ignite inside her, small, shaking, but undeniably real. She looked back at the hospital, at the window to her mother's room, and a quiet whisper escaped her lips. I can't give up. Not now. In that moment, the ordinary girl made an extraordinary choice. She would fight. The days that followed, blurred into a grueling routine. School became a place she passed through, her mind elsewhere. After her classes, she didn't go home to study or hang out with friends. Instead, she took on part-time jobs any she could find. She bussed tables at a greasy diner, the smell of fried food clinging to her clothes. She stocked shelves at a corner store late into the night, her muscles aching with a fatigue she had never known. She tutored younger kids in subjects she barely had time to study for herself. Then, after her shifts, she would head to the hospital, her backpack heavy with textbooks. She'd do her homework in the dim light of the waiting room, her mind drifting between algebra and her mother's heart rate. In the early morning hours, she would head home, catch an hour or 2 of sleep, and then get up to make her mother's favorite broth to take to the hospital before school. She went without sleep, without rest. Sometimes, it felt, without hope. But she never, ever stopped. Her friends didn't understand. They saw the dark circles under her eyes, the way she was always distant, always tired. Invitations to movies and parties stopped coming. She became an outsider in her own social world, the gap between her reality and theirs growing wider each day. There were moments of crushing loneliness, moments when she looked at her reflection and saw a stranger staring back, a weary, exhausted girl who was aging too fast. The fire that had ignited that night outside the hospital often dwindled to a faint ember, threatened by the winds of exhaustion and despair. She felt the weight of every dollar she hadn't earned, every hour she couldn't be by her mother's side. The responsibility was a physical burden, pressing down on her shoulders until she thought her bones would snap. One particularly brutal night, after a double shift at the diner where a customer had yelled at her for a simple mistake, Mia missed the last bus home. She collapsed onto the cold, hard bench at the bus stop, the fight finally draining out of her. The city lights blurred as hot. Angry tears streamed down her face. A sob tore from her throat, raw and ragged. I'm not strong enough, she whispered to the empty street. I can't keep going. It felt like the truest thing she had ever said. She was just a kid playing at being an adult, and she was failing. The strength she thought she had found was just a temporary illusion, a desperate lie she had told herself. The darkness she had been running from was finally catching up. As she sat there, lost in her own misery, a quiet voice cut through her sobs. Child. She looked up to see an older woman sitting beside her, her face kind and etched with the wisdom of a long life. The woman offered her a small, gentle smile. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's not a gift given to a chosen few. It's something you find when you have no other choice but to move forward. The woman's words were simple, but they landed with the force of a revelation. They didn't offer a solution or false praise. They offered a fundamental truth. Mia looked at her own hands, calloused from work, and thought about the countless times she had wanted to quit but hadn't. She had been moving forward, step by agonizing step, without even realizing it. Those words stayed with Mia long after the woman had boarded her bus and disappeared into the night. They echoed in her mind as she walked the long miles home. They were there when she finally fell into her bed, and they were the first thing she thought of when her alarm blared just a few hours later. Something had shifted again. Mia stood up the next morning with a new, quiet resolve. She wasn't trying to be a hero anymore. She didn't try to be perfect or fearless. She just tried again. And when she failed, when she felt weak, when she wanted to cry, she allowed herself that moment of humanity. And then, she just tried again. Her goal was no longer to conquer the mountain in one giant leap, but to take the next single step. That, she realized, was something she could do. Months crawled by. The seasons changed. Mia continued her relentless pace, but now with a different kind of energy. It wasn't frantic or desperate anymore. It was steady. It was determined. She learned to manage the small moments, to find slivers of peace in the chaos, a shared laugh with a coworker, a kind word from a teacher, a brief moment of quiet sunshine on her face. And slowly, miraculously, things at the hospital began to change. The treatments started to work. Her mother's color returned. The doctors started smiling again. And then, the day finally came. The day her mother was well enough to come home. Mia stood in the doorway of her mother's bedroom, her heart pounding. The room was filled with sunlight and the scent of fresh flowers she had bought with her tips. When her mother opened her eyes, she didn't see the frail, scared girl she had left behind. She saw Mia, tired, yes, and thinner, but her daughter was glowing with a profound, unshakable strength she had never seen before. Her eyes held a depth and a resilience that hadn't been there before. Her mother reached out a hand, and Mia took it. It was still delicate, but there was warmth in it again. Her mother's voice was a soft whisper, but it was full of awe. "You were my courage when I had none," she said, her eyes shining with tears. "Mia, you're stronger than you know." And in that moment, holding her mother's hand, Mia finally understood. Strength wasn't loud or flashy. It wasn't about being fearless or invincible. It was quiet. It was choosing to keep going. One more day, one more hour, one more step, even when every single part of you is screaming to stop. It was the silent promise you make to yourself in the dark. She had spent her entire life believing she was weak, ordinary, and meant for the background. But life, in its harsh and beautiful way, had proven her wrong. By forcing her into the fire, it had revealed the steel within her. The quiet girl who was afraid of her own shadow had become unstoppable. Sometimes, life breaks us. It shatters our comfortable worlds and throws us into the storm. But maybe it breaks us so we can discover what we're truly made of. Maybe the cracks are where our real strength begins to show. Like Mia, you may be facing your own impossible challenge right now. You may feel tired, lost, and convinced that you're not strong enough. But look inside. That flicker of fire is there. And you, too, may be so much stronger than you ever imagined. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more.